The brand new Valentino Born in Roma Ivory. We have the Uomo and we have the Donna. Of course, these are the brand new fragrances from the Valentino brand. Well, they're not super brand new. They actually came out a few months ago. I've had them in my collection now for a while. I realized I've never gotten around to doing a formal review of both of these, so it's a two-in-one shot. So we have the men's counterpart and the women's counterpart. We have bergamot and lavender in the men's. And I'm actually convinced there's a little bit of vanilla in here as well. But in the women's, you have vanilla, orange blossom, marshmallow. It's so funny looking at the note breakdown. I'm thinking to myself, is this going to smell like a Love Don't Be Shy? Because the note breakdown seems to be near identical. But I am actually really enjoying this fragrance. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on both of these fragrances in just a little bit. But before I dive into the video, I do want to mention that if you're a fan of perfume-related content, and of course, if you love smelling your best, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and also give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. And of course, 2 for 1. So let's go ahead and talk about both of these fragrances. And I think they're both really interesting additions to the Born in Roma lineup. Now, I love the original Donna. I love Extra Dose. Extra Dose is probably like one of my new favorites, and I just love that vanilla rum combination. And I also really like the intense version as well. Now, with regard to the men's counterpart, also really like the intense, really like the Extra Dose. I have them all, if I'm being honest with you. So it's hard to not love Valentino fragrances, especially given all of the traction they've gotten, and they've received an enormous amount of praise, and for good reason. I think they're amazing fragrances. And they're a bit more youthful and contemporary. I think some of them, perhaps for some people, lack that seriousness. And I think whenever you add a level of sweetness to any fragrance, the expectation is going to be that it's going to be a bit more playful, a bit more flirty, a bit more laid back, not super serious or formal. And I think that's the case with these two as well. So let me go ahead and start things off with the men's counterpart, which is Uomo Born in Roma Ivory. Now, this fragrance actually does open up rather fresh, and I love the bergamot in the opening. It's a very nondescript citrus, so you're not going to get anything too recognizable, as it were, and you are going to get that lavender heart, but it's a very blended well type of a lavender with whatever sweetness is occurring in the dry down. As a matter of fact, I might actually make this my signature scent today. And you know, it's interesting because when I thought of Ivory, especially when this first was, I guess, announced online, before it had formally dropped, the expectation was, oh, I think Valentino is going to capitalize on that whole milk train, right? Like the whole lactonic wave that is happening. Oh, and this one smells so good. I'm going to keep it in the bedroom. But thankfully, that was not the case. And so this actually ends up being kind of vanillic lavender, slightly sweet, almost even like, as I'm smelling it in the air right now, like almost like a little bit of a powdery type of a fragrance, but in the best way possible. Like this is really, really well done. And I think a lot of people tend to compare it to the predecessors. And I think for that reason, if you already have an emotional attachment to one of the previous Valentino flankers, then inevitably you're going to end up comparing it to that fragrance. But as a standalone fragrance, it's very good. And so I'm really enjoying this one. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to be wearing this one quite a bit this fall and winter. Not your, stereotypical fall and winter fragrance. It's not dark and resinous and smoky and, geared for the colder weather in such a way. But I think it conveys playful aura. I think there's a tone of sophistication about it without being too serious. I think the lavender is done really nicely in conjunction with the vanilla that I'm perceiving in the base. I didn't see vanilla in the note breakdown that I sourced online, but you're inevitably going to get something sweet happening in the dry down. As far as the women's counterpart is concerned, like I said before, interestingly enough, I'm looking at the note breakdown and I see the orange blossom and the vanilla, the marshmallow, and I said, okay, this is, by the way, much stronger atomizer than the men's counterpart. I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, and this opens up quite beautiful. It's actually not as sweet as Oriana. It's not as sweet as Love Don't Be Shy. So it's more of like a floral vibe. And of course, if you know the original Donna Born in Roma, it has a lot of that really elegant jasmine. It's a very sexy fragrance. And, obviously we get more sensual, more dangerous, and more provocative as we evolve throughout the collection. And even with extra dose, that rum and vanilla combination is quite dangerous. And this one, it's very transparent. You definitely get those clean florals working their way into the mix. And the more that it dries down, the more that it becomes reminiscent of the original. So this is truly in line and in form with what one could expect from the Ivory counterpart. Again, I think a lot of people make that synesthetic connection. And so my expectation was going to be with the extra dose because of like that bright hot pink color. I don't know why. I was expecting that one to be the sweetest one. With this one, I was expecting a bit of a maybe lactonic component or something very creamy and vanillic, and I'm not really getting that necessarily. This is more of like a bright, floral, clean, citrusy almost type of a floral scent, and the orange blossom plays a major role in this fragrance. But this one is actually really nice. It's for fans of Love Don't Be Shy or Oriana who perhaps want something that is not as sweet. I feel like you're going to get that with this fragrance. Something a bit more floral leaning, something that still bears a very close relationship to the original and the other flankers within the collection. And then, of course, the same thing can be said about this fragrance. And I think all in all, they're both very well done. I think at the end of the day, depending on whether you're going to go with this one or the original or the intense or the extra dose or green extravaganza, which was actually quite different from all of the rest, if I'm being honest with you, that's going to be contingent on your personal taste. And, I can't tell you which one you're going to prefer. My only recommendation would be walk into a major department store that carries these, presumably Macy's, and try them for yourself. I think if you have access to them and you can at the very least try them on your skin, see how they evolve with your pH levels, your skin chemistry, see what the longevity is like on your skin, see if it's something that is in alignment with your personal taste, then okay, you can pull the trigger and you'll say, I'm going to buy it because I really, really like it. But I think there's something to be said about, I'm telling you, the atomizer on this is not as forceful as the women's. Maybe I'm just nitpicking at this point, but look at that. It's even louder. Anyway, they both smell really good. I think it's a really nice counterpart to one another. This one is more floral, citrusy with a hint of sweetness. This is more aromatic with a hint of sweetness. And they're both, I don't want to use the word powdery, but they almost have like this, at least the men's version for sure, is a little powdery in the air, but it's a very clean type of powder. It's not a baby powder type of powder, if that makes sense. Anyway, they're both very nice. That was my formal review on both of these fragrances. I don't know if this is my favorite from the collection though. I think I do certainly like many of the other fragrances, and I had them in this room. I moved them to the other bedroom. I was gonna bring them on camera. Maybe I'll do another video in the near future comparing the entire collection if there's any interest in that. But both of these are quite well done and a healthy enough deviation from the predecessors that if you own the original, if you own any of the other flankers and you're wanting to expand upon the collection, you don't have to worry that you're going to get anything redundant with either one of these. But with that being said, hey, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you took something of value from today's episode. And again, if you did, please do consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell, and also giving this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So thanks again for watching. I love you guys. And thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.